Hey folks, Jake Walden here. Well, Saw is back, and this time, after so many years, we have a brand new Saw video game, Saw Genesis. Today we're going to take this opportunity to look at all the footage from the Saw Genesis trailer, as well as break it down in details, as well as showcase the story, the characters, and how it fits into the Saw lore. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you haven't already, as well as like and comment below. And as always, if you're a big fan of the channel, please support us on our Patreon page at patreon.com/thejigsawblogs. Having said that, on to our trailer breakdown of Saw Genesis. Okay, I gotta start this video off with a small confession, and that is, I'm not much of a video gamer. In fact, here are a list of all the games that I have right here on my PlayStation 3. That's it, just the Arkham games, and of course, the 2 Saw video games. Now, if you're like me, if you hear the chance that you're going to play a new Saw video game, you're going to be excited, or you're going to be turned off by it because it's not a single-player game, and it's more of the lines of a 3 versus 1 multiplayer horror game, kind of like Dead by Daylight. So while I'm not going to cover this game from a playable perspective, I am going to look at it through its storyline and how it fits into the Saw lore. So let's give this trailer a special look as we break down the story of Saw Genesis.
Your book, bound in blood, inspires those who are worthy.
The story of Saw Genesis takes place in the early 20th century after the grim aftermath of World War I. It explores the origins of the character known as the Judge, who is a brutal architect of the Jigsaw's philosophy, and his methods would inspire John Kramer's work decades later. As mentioned, the story takes place in post-World War I, where the Judge develops a form of rehabilitation through pain and sacrifice. Players can choose to step into either role in a 3 versus 1 confrontation. The Judge can use tools such as hallucinogenic gas, paralyzing toxins, and even the use of an accomplice to drag survivors into their rehabilitation traps. While the accused are 3 individuals that have to work together in order to escape, they must solve puzzles, scavenge items, and secure escape routes under time pressure, facing both physical traps as well as psychological strains on their situation. The story of the game was developed by the Blobber team, Broken Mirror Games, and Ashar Studio, as well as Lionsgate Pictures. The trailer starts at a work desk with a similar light structure sound effect right above it with the lights coming on, just like they do in normal Saw films. Then a hand grabs a tape recorder and a book off that desk. That man, of course, is John Kramer, voiced, once again, by Tobin Bell. And right off the back, with Tobin's voice, you feel like you're back in the world of Saw, and with just his voice and presence alone, and that's just a good thing, just to hear. Also on the desk, you kind of see more books and paper, and possible anesthetic and drugs that was used probably on more of John's victims. John then pushes the record button on the tape player, and begins to narrate his monologue that we hear in the trailer. He's doing this while holding a book with the spiral symbol on it. Remember, John does have a history of keeping notes and records of drawings of traps that we've seen in the movies, and especially in Saw X. But this isn't the same book as we've seen in the movies, because this book has the red spiral symbol on it, and we know that this book once belonged to the Judge. John begins his monologue. 100 years have passed since the genesis of your legacy. Some call you a monster, but I call you a prophet. Pain is our only true path to redemption. It strips away all the lies that the people tell themselves. Only then do they get to see what really makes them tick. The sacrifice must always be paid in blood, live or die. Your book, bound in blood, inspire those who are worthy. The spiral bleeds ever deeper. Let the games begin. As the trailer continues, we cut back to it looks like a piece of a leather belt that's being stitched into the forehead of one of the accused. That's a nice little callback to Saw 4, with the stitches in the eyes and the stitches in the mouth shut, as well as we find out that it was Dr. Gordon who did this. And we kind of see right here as it zooms out how it's really stitched to the forehead, but there's also a device that goes not only around the individual, but straight down to its mouth. And then we cut to another shot right here of a table with a scalpel and supplies and surgical procedure. We see a lot of blood on the table. So I just see the judge, and this is the judge, by the way, as we could tell later on is the trailer, as the glove in the hand matches the attire. He stitched it together, and then as we move forward, there's little flashes of drawings right here that we see from the sketchbook. We kind of see the judge is also kind of a form of an engineer, which is kind of like John Kramer was. So maybe the judge was part of the engineering department in World War I. And of course we get nice little close-up shots of the eye right here being zoomed in as we see the accused just now realizing the situation that they're in. And we look right here, this is a nice little callback to Saw 2 with Look Closer, Detective Matthews, with blood pat on the ceiling. It says the hour of judgment is upon you. So basically this is like the calling card of the judge. That's probably why they call him the judge, because he probably leaves traces of this all across his victims. As the trailer moves forward, we get a shot of the trenches, and you can see this is World War I in the trenches. And World War I, if you're a historical buff, was known as probably one of the most brutal wars out there of all time, especially with all the experimental stuff that they did with gases and mimes and tanks and all kinds of stuff right there. It was really brutal. And one of the things about the gases in World War I is, if you read your history, that some people would try mustard gas and all kind of hallucinogenic gases in trenches, but because they were in the trenches, the gas would not only affect the enemy, but it would also affect the groups that would try to fire them, which is why a lot of people died in this war, and especially in the trenches. But as we cut closer, the trailer goes on, we see a bunch of bodies laid out on the ground right here, either been shot and killed in the trenches based off war. We do see one soldier coddling a man in his arms, and he is heartbroken that this comrade of his has fallen. I actually will go into details as to who I think the man is in just a little bit, but as we keep going on, as the trailer moves forward, we see the individual is a soldier, and we look at his patch, on, especially on the right side right there, that you see he's part of a medical unit. So maybe he's like a medic trying to go out into the field and save these individuals. But then, as he screams and opens up his mouth, we see that his jaw is ripped open, and he lets out a huge scream and cries over his fallen comrades. I have a theory who this is, but I'll get to that in just a second. But we cut to the next clip, and this is where we're probably going to spend some time in this video right here, where I analyze all of the pictures and drawings right here. People, I do believe that the man that you saw in the video screaming, I think that's the judge. I think that's the judge, and we see the backstory literally of the judge unfold in this brief 3 seconds we see in the trailer of all the newspaper clippings on the wall right here. It's a nice little callback to Saw 1 with Detective Tapp and all the photos on the wall, but these photographs and newspaper clippings on the wall probably tells the story of not only the judge, but also members of the accused that are going to be in the game as well, to provide a little bit more background. So we're going to take a look at this first article right here. It says that Pioneer Limb Reattachment Surgery. They can't really see what else it says, but if you go ahead and pay close attention and zoom in, the article reads as the following. It says, the medical community is abuzz following the reports of an ambitious surgical attempt aimed to restoring grievous injured limbs to avoid amputation on the battlefield. The operation was intended to demonstrate that modern methods may accomplish what one could thought would be impossible. The first operation, however, ended in failure, as the patient's body rejected the reattached limb shortly after surgery. Even so, a specialist maintained that setbacks are the price of progress, predicting that refinements in technique may turn today's disappointments into tomorrow's triumph. I do believe that one of the surgery's attempts right here was to fix the jaw of the judge that we see him screaming in the trailer. And if we look closely at the judge right now, you see the little mechanical substance that is on his face, little apparatus. You see the cheeks cut right there on his right side, and the judge is kind of bald, which is kind of similar to what the person was in the World War I. Granted, they all probably had their haircuts back then, just to fit in the cast for war army purposes. But we kind of see what's really cool about the judge right here. If you take a good look at his apparatus right there, he's tightening not only his mechanisms to help him breathe, because probably he got infected with the gas or the mustard gas back in World War I, but also that he has a little voice apparatus on the left side right here. So when he talks, I think it's going to be really cool. I think when the judge talks, it's going to sound more like Billy the Puppet. So he'll have like a muffled voice, kind of what John Kramer does back in the day. It would actually be kind of cool if they actually got Tobin Bell to voice the judge, if Tobin Bell was able to disguise his voice just a little bit differently than what the judge would. But yeah, you could see he is going to talk that way. He might be talking like Bane, too, from The Dark Knight Rises, or Darth Vader, which we could see how it works right there. But that's just a little interesting tidbit right there. We also take a look at the second article, which is on the bottom right side of the surgical article. The article says, drastic cuts to police funds leads to rising lawlessness. And if you zoom in closely, it talks about police cutbacks, just more mysterious disappearances that have been going on the rise in the districts. And the police spokesperson says that they are exhausting all resources, but the results are not the ones they want because of the less coverage they have in the police force. So basically, it's going to talk about how there's cutbacks to the police force, and the police are having a hard time fighting all of these missing accused victims that are going to be tested by the judge that have gone missing. So maybe one of the accused victims has to be working in law enforcement, maybe like a police commissioner or like a city councilman that's involved with all the police cutbacks. And he's a judge, after all. They call him the judge. Maybe the judge probably was involved in law enforcement as well. So maybe all the cutbacks are the reason for a little bit more background with the judge. So that could be one of the reasons right there for one of the accused victims that we see later on in the traps. Maybe the accused victim works for law enforcement, or city councilman has something to do with all the reasons why the funds were cutted. The third one, which probably caught a lot of people's attention, that you see right above the police funding article, it talks about how the police are stumped by unusual marks on victims, and you see a picture of a severed hand with the spiral symbol on it. That's pretty unique. And instead of a puzzle piece, the judge uses a spiral symbol. So when John Kramer kills a victim, he usually cuts out a puzzle piece to show that they were missing the vital piece of the human puzzle, the survival instincts. The judge looks to be using the spiral symbol, maybe painting a red symbol on people's severed limbs as a calling card for him back in the day, as well as we see what he does with the book. So maybe the spiral symbol is the calling card of the judge rather than the puzzle piece, which would have been for Jigsaw. But if you go on and look at that severed hand article, it continues by saying how a gruesome discovery was made along the riverbank and how authorities found a severed hand. And it goes on to talk about how it rattles the entire town that's already unsettled with recent disappearances. So it's talking about more people have been disappearing in the town lately. But the article continues to say that it is impossible to ID the victim, and investigators are still perplexed and urge citizens to be alert and contact police if they see anything suspicious. Which is basically the gist of the article. So basically, the judge just leaves a calling card with a severed hand, leaves a spiral symbol, and it's freaking everybody out as a little calling card. Then we go to the article underneath it, and it reads, "Local hero dies." And this is the part right here that's going to tie back to the soldier that I talked about earlier in the trailer, the one that the judge is covering. And this is my theory, by the way. I can't confirm this, but this is my theory. The article talks about that a local hero dies, and that a fallen soldier was honored with flags being lowered for his service. But then this is the key sentence right here in this article, which leads to my theory. It says, in a tragic turn of events, the deceased soldier's brother had suffered a grave loss as well. You can see that right in the article if you zoom in closely. It says again, a deceased soldier's brother has suffered a grave loss. People, my theory is that the man with the jaw ripped open, the body of the fallen comrade and the soldier, I believe that's the judge's brother. So this is personal for the judge. I imagine the judge came in, he was a soldier, and his brother was in the trenches with him, and then we find out that that soldier right there was the brother of the judge. And so this is personal for the judge, the art of war and stuff like that, how he lost his brother, lost his family, and through the battle. That is my theory. I do believe, just based on this article right here, what I read. Now, it could be talking about other soldiers as well, but why would the judge hang this particular article up unless it had something to do with either himself or the accused? The next article up top talks about Army Sergeant Gall AWOL, and his whereabouts are currently unknown. And unfortunately, I just can't be able to zoom in and read the rest of that article, but that's what the main headline says on top of it, as well as the other articles, which I can't make out right there at this moment, but I can read the headlines. It says, mysterious disappearances, and basically it shows a picture of soldiers saluting in the background. And the final article, which is closest to the judge and the clock in the trailer, it says, shell-shocked, veterans return home. So basically this talks about people coming home from the war, how people are happy. Maybe Judge put that up there because, you know, he came home from the war, but he didn't come home in one piece. But then we cut back to the trailer of the judge fixing his mask and his air tanks, and it looks like one of the accused victims. And the accused victims, you could tell, the one that was had that piece of belt stitched to his forehead in the trailer. He sees the judge, he's terrified, he knows what's about to happen right there. And we kind of see right here, if you look, it's actually, the trap is very similar to that of the reverse bear trap. Now, it's a little bit different because you see the gears in the head stitched right there. I think this is like the modern prototype of the reverse bear trap, how the jaw doesn't really rip open, but you can see how the gears will crank to the side right there. So it's a nice little early callback to the reverse bear trap, I think. So, it's a little bit different than what Jigsaw did in the Saw movies with Amanda and Hoffman and all the other victims with the reverse bear trap. But I think this is like the early prototype version of the reverse bear trap, as we see the judge putting on right here. And that could be like one of the origin stories of the reverse bear trap, and where John gets the ideas of using the reverse bear trap, plus who the judge's practice. And one of the things you notice right here, I think one of the accused victim that you see right here, if you look at the collar, it kind of looks like a soldier's uniform. So I think this person right here has to do within the army or soldiers as part of the war. So I think this accused victim right here has something to do with the army, which may be personal to the judge. Maybe it's a soldier that didn't follow orders, or could be something along the lines where this soldier did something that he shouldn't have done, and he's being tested by the judge. And as you look back at the trailer, it says the hour of judgment is upon you. That's what this person is looking at right there. Then we cut to our next shot of the trailer, and as you see at the bottom, it says pre-alpha footage, which means this footage may change for the gameplay itself. Then again, I'm not a gamer, but I imagine this is the footage that they're going to go with for the game itself. And we take a look right there over the shoulder, we see the brand new stand-in for the new Billy doll. I don't have a name for this doll right here, but we can tell it's got the spiral symbol on it. Its hair is long, there's no tie, but it's the shape of a girl. It's got a nice little red skirt. But on the table, if you take a close look, you see an eyeball on the table, because if you look also at the picture of the doll has no eyes. If the doll has no eyes, but you see an eyeball on the table and a little cup right there, as you see it zooms in right there and it goes to the next shot. If you look at the table right there, you see an eyeball in the cup right there. So it's probably telling one of the accused victims, if you want to move on to the next phase of the game, you're going to it's going to cost you one of your eyes. So it looks like one of the accused victims is going to have to use some sort of trap device to cut out one of their eyes. That's a little theory I have right there. But that's really unusual. And it's also got the spiral symbol on the face. And I like how it starts in the head, and it curls down, and it bleeds to the lips. So it's a little bit different right there than the Billy doll, where it just cuts down and it goes right to the lips. It's a nice little design right have right there, as far as if you were creating a new Billy doll. I kind of like the idea where it's blind, it's got the spiral symbol, and then the bleeds over to the lips, kind of like for the red lips, kind of like what Billy does on his own little device. Then we cut to the next part of the trailer where we see two accused victims are walking around. One man, one woman. And it's kind of like the steam room from Saw 6. And there's also little scenes in the Saw 1 and Saw 2 video games where you had to turn the knobs of pipes in order to sneak through past wall and fire and stuff like that. It looks to be something similar here. But if you look in the top right there, you see a little bit of a walkway right there. And that's for the judge. So I think during the game, the judge will walk his way over and maybe change things for them, or maybe one of the accused has to find their ways to get to the upper level to help steer them through, and they're all going to have to work together. Hence, this is a 3 versus 1 game, so the 3 accused victims have to work together in order to escape. But when we go to the next shot right here, we see the judge is overseen on a wooden platform looking down at the furnace room or the steam room, and he's looking to these victims. So basically, the victims had to find their own path to get through, and they turn the knobs to turn the fire off In order for one person to get through, one person might have to get burned and have to make some sacrifice, some flesh in order to get through. So I imagine one person is going to get burned really, really bad for the other two to escape. And the judge is going to make sure of that it's not too easy for the accused victims to get on through. But one of the things that you see right here, like I said, you see one of the victims up there. He's turning the knob so the person below can get through. But we see all kinds of symbols in the ground. Like there's the hourglass symbol right there. There's some square symbols painted across. There's a green triangle path right there. I imagine each person has their own path they had to follow. So if you're this certain accused character, you got to follow the green triangle path. Or if you're this person right here, you got to follow the white hourglass symbols path to walk around and move forward so you don't get lost. And it takes you in the direction you need to go to get the item that you need. Maybe each accused person's got to be able to go find something to grab something like a wheel or a key or something along the lines. But you can see, like in the corner, you see all the symbols up there for each path and direction. So maybe the accused victims can't get lost. And this kind of takes me back to Saw 1 or even the Saw VR game where you get to turn the handle and stuff like that. Maybe this person like turned the handle too early and their hand got super hot and boiling. And that's why you see the left hand right here is getting burned right there. They crank it up and down. There's an explosion of flames, as you can see right here, going through. So if you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, you're going to get burned. Or maybe you have to run through it as quick as you can so you get to the other side. You have to sacrifice some flesh and go from there. And then we cut to this shot right here. Again, it says pre-alpha footage, so this footage could change. We see it looks to be a man in a cap. This used to be one of the mans that was in the still photos released. He's wearing a little World War I cap right there, or 1920s cap on top of their heads up there. It looks very old, soldiery and stuff like that. He's got a little bit of the jaw trap on right there, or it could be a little bit of a gear similar to that of Saw 6 that Tanija Howard's character Simone was wearing. That could be an idea. But it goes on, and he's actually trying something. He's actually punching it, which is different. I wouldn't probably do that approach. Maybe if in the game, if you get a chance to punch it off and stuff like that and get the device off you, then you're able to. Or it could be a situation where the device is used where if you get out of range, it'll detonate and it'll go off, so you gotta stay within range. But you see shots of the gears turning, where it's yellow, where it's green, the gears are turning tighter and tighter. And you see it's grabbed to his chin, and there's like a saw blade. So maybe this blade will cut into their cheek and goes down to the jaws that way, rather than just rip the jaws off. It probably cuts into them because you see little sharp blades on the left side right here. So basically it's a device that you probably don't want to be in, you don't want to see go off. Now we get to the shot right here of two accused victims, one man and one woman. The woman's like comforting the man right there. But you see real closely right here the chain. The chain is hooked to the man individual, and if you look closely, it goes all the way up to the roof right next to the judge. So you as the judge, I believe, will determine whether this guy stays on this level with the woman or if he gets like pulled up to the ceiling with the judge, or gets strung, or is not able to go, or maybe the judge can release him saying, hey, he suffered enough, he can move on to the next trial, and then go on from there. So again, the judge is overseeing everything, and then the trailer cuts to the next shot of the woman that we see in the trap. She's actually reaching in like a little glass jar to pick up what looks to be the doll, the little doll you see, but as you see, their hands reaching in kind of like the razor hourglass that you saw that Addison Corday was doing in Saw 2, the glass box trap, where she stuck her hands in there and tried to pull out the key. For some reason, you had to pull out the doll. I'm not sure why they had to go get the doll, but you could clearly see that when they pull the razor wire up, not only are they losing a lot of blood, but they actually got the doll. And a little bit close up of the doll, it's got red shoes like Billy, it's got a red skirt, white shirt with the black coat, kind of like the Wednesday coat from Wednesday Addams in a way, but even the hair's kind of like Wednesday too, so a little callback to Addams Family right there. But yeah, the eyes are out. It's got the spiral symbol. The doll's like it's a doll. It's like the size of a little doll, like a little bit bigger than a Barbie doll, but what dolls would be back in the day. So it's a little bit smaller than the Billy doll. But the reason I think, why would somebody have to go and risk their limb just to get a doll? Maybe it's like a collectible, like, you know, in the Saw 2 video game, you were able to collect Billy the Puppet dolls as part of the thing. Maybe it's one of the trophy areas where if you want to get all of the achievements and the collections, you have to make some sacrifices. And hey, there's like 5 or 6 Billy dolls, or the equivalent of a Billy dolls in the game right here you have to collect. And they're in this area right here. If you get them, it's going to cost you. So I'm not sure why you had to get a doll, but I think that could be a reason for the game. Just like a little achievement trophy there for you. Then we cut to the table shot right here where we see 4 fingers are on the table. A name is blurred out in the background right there. I think the trailer did that on purpose so we don't see the name of the individual right there. So, but yeah, like say, you see the judge reach over there. He picks up one of the fingers. It looks to be the index finger that he grabs right there. And then it cuts to more flashes right there of, you know, fingers and stuff like that. And a nice little butterfly with a skull symbol. That's a little calling card, a little something different. Maybe it's like venom from this butterfly or something like that because people are experimenting. And it looks to be like a barber's chair that you see right here is the gears right there. Someone's sitting in a barber's chair with a skull going on right here. And of course, the next picture right here, it cuts to, it looks like flashes of the reverse bear trap. It also goes down to their back of their necks too. So maybe it could be a situation where it decapitates people rather than rips their jaws open. It decapitates them because it may go forward and then it just pushes off the back of their head. So that could be a little different than reverse bear trap. But instead of like coming off, it decapitates. More pictures of bones and human body right there, as you can see right there. And this is the final shot of inside the book from the trailer. And while you see the reverse bear trap in action right there, modified version of it, you see the skulls kind of removed off the body right there of the skeleton on the pictures on the left side. Maybe that's what happens. And also, you take a look right here. You see a record player with a voice right there. So instead of tapes back in, maybe the judge used like a record player to leave a voice message behind. So you had to go put in like find like a disc. Back in the day, in order to hear instead of tapes, you had to use like a record disc back in the day where you want to hear songs, they put it on record. So maybe one of the things you have to do in the game is you have to go find records, and then you have to go take it to the little record player that you see right there. I forget the name of it right there, but you play it, and then that's how you get your tape messages from the judge during the game. So that'd be a little cool and different right there for you, but it's sitting at a dining table right there. Now, if you look at the big picture on the right, you see the main thing of the trap right there, which is the cube crusher trap. Someone's in the barber chair. Maybe they had to lose their fingers, and that's the reason why you see their fingers are out right there. Maybe they had to cut off their hand as part of a little trap device that you see right there, or they had to donate a lot of things, or lose a lot of blood, or give blood. But they're sitting in a barber chair. They're right there, but they're strapped in. And then you see right above their head those little compressor traps. This is kind of similar to one of the traps in the Saw 2 video game, where I forget one of the cops that Michael was trying to save was trying to press his skull together, and you had to match the colors to the device in order to save the guy from all the gears, and it just crushed his head. So that could be one of the traps right there. It's a little inspiring from that John used in the Saw 2 video game. But then the book closes, and the judge takes the finger and paints the blood on it into a spiral symbol. And so that inspires the spiral symbol for Jigsaw that we see later on. And that's why you hear the line in Jigsaw's monologue where he says, "Your work bound in blood inspires those that are worthy." It cuts to, we see right here, the final shot of the trailer is that back in the warehouse. I believe this might be the Saw 2 warehouse. You see on the table Billy the Puppet's in there. You see a pig mask down below, and in the background you see lockers and computer monitors, which kind of supports, this is back at the Wilson Steel plant from the Saw 2 movie. So maybe this is a timeline where, you know, this takes place between Saw 1 Saw 2 and the video games right there. Or it could just be like a little footage. Just say, we need some John Kramer footage, so let's go ahead and use this right here. But yeah, that inspires the footage. We see John walks up, picks up Billy, and then we cut to the graphics right here, which is Saw Genesis. And yeah, guys, it's pretty cool. The trailer right there. It comes out later on this year for those that want to sign up for the early access. And a little bit something different. The logo has changed a little bit too. It's different than the original Saw logo. Maybe that's a new logo that they're going to use in the future Saw films going forward. It's a little bit different, but at least establishes the game. But one thing I do like about this final image right here, it's a nice little callback to all the Saw posters back in the day. Had, like, the letters were red, had a gray background. It focuses on the trap. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty cool little design poster right there and cover photo for the game. This might be like the game's covered if there's like a hard copy, but then again, they may not have hard copies of this game right here. But that's the gist of the trailer right there, and then it's available on Steam, and you could see right off the bat all the things that it's promoting right there. You could sign up for the closed alpha account, sawgenesis.com, which we'll show you in just a little bit. You could go on the wish list. It's a 3v1 multiplayer horror game, and it looks pretty cool based on what I've seen right here. There's also a few still photos that were released that I'm going to talk about as well for promotional purposes. Some of the ones that caught my eye right here. This is a photo of the judge standing on the board with a chain, as we see looking down with the man below. Look at the photo right there. It says the Gideon Rosewood Haven Orphanage. Obviously, a Gideon is a callback to the name John would use towards his son. I think that's too coincidental, honestly. I probably wouldn't have done that. It's a nice little cool moment to go, hey, Gideon. One of my friends joked about, you see the individual on the very, very, very far end right there. He jokes like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was John? And I was like, nah, it wouldn't be, because that means John would have to be over 100 years old. So maybe it could be a descendant of maybe like John's grandfather was an orphan from this place. Yeah, that's kind of how we look right there. How some of the pictures, like one of the people right there look like Tobin in a way, but the judge is looking down below from the Gideon orphanages right there. I think it's just a nice little Easter egg they put in for the son, but really that shouldn't be like, you know, oh, John should not be associated with this right now, or at least he himself. Maybe his grandfather could be from the orphanage and stuff like that, but that's a little callback from that one right there. Next one is more of a closer look at the Billy doll. You see the plant right there where the judge is telling you, you know, you need the wheel to go into the gear. So it's basically kind of like from the Saw 1 video game. You had to go find the wheel and then attach it to the valve and then turn it so you can turn the fire. So maybe one of the accused has to find it, and the judge is there. He's going to try to hide the wheel from one of the victims. You see the stand-in Billy doll right there. You get a close look at his shoes, her dress, and just sitting there. And the judge is admiring all the work and from the balcony area. And of course, the symbols right there to tell you which direction to go. And then back to the table with the doll we talked about earlier. One of the things I noticed also, two things actually. If you look at the right side, you see something hanging right there. That could be like a mirror. So maybe like the judge is giving you a chance to look into the mirror and cut out your eyeball, because you see the eyes sitting on the table right there with the plate and candles and stuff like that with the doll, telling you to cut out your eye. So in order for you to move on, there's an eye. There's also, if you look at the left side right there, there's like a measurement cup where it's like four, then dot, then it sees skull and crossbones. Basically, if maybe like this acid reaches this level right here, it's going to burn or melt your face or something like that, and it'll kill you. So you have to cut out your eye in time and move on. And of course, look above. You see the judge right on the very top left-hand side right there looking down. Make sure that you are following the rules, as they say. And of course, more still shots of the steam room. Like you're able to turn the wheel and valve. Make sure to turn the right direction. You see more of there's a reach for the various thing where you see the doll. So if you look at the behind the woman picture right there, you see the glass box right there where the doll will be caught inside. Maybe you have to reach inside there to cut your hand open, but also you see the fire wall right there. You have to turn the valves and stuff like that in order to proceed to the next room. So little Easter eggs right there you see in these photos right here. And of course, the woman right there is coming through the firewall. You see her right there, but you see the person right there, and you see the syringe right there. This is the judge who's probably going to kidnap one of the accused victims and take him to the next room. But as I said right there, you look, there's another box right there where you can reach in and get something right there on the right side. There's the woman right there. The judge has got the syringe right there. And of course, the balcony is right above. Reason why beds were there, I'm not sure, but it just could be a little place for them to rest and recover and talk. And of course, another close-up of the soldier right there. Some people theorize that this person right here was the person who has mouth ripped open. I mean, it would make sense, but it could be a soldier right there that also had his mouth ripped open, because you see the scars around its lips and its cheeks right there. That could be from the gears himself cutting in right there. So it could be like marks from wars that people would have back in the day. So this person's, one of the accused is caught in one of the victims in the traps right there. And of course, more photos of the judge in the background, like a judge's workshop right there. There's a mannequin, so it's a nice little callback to the mannequin factory that John used to use in testing out things. So the judge kind of uses that. If you look at the table right there, there's more plans that the judge draws up, as well as the chain from earlier, as I mentioned, from when he was chained one of the victims, whether you could choose to let him go or not. So a little callback right there in that photo there. And the last photo we're going to look at right here is the debut of the Pig Max. Now, two things I see right here. One, you kind of see the red outline right there where at the borders you see where it's all red. This must mean that your health in the game must be draining a little bit right there. So it's kind of a little callback to Saw 2 video game, which I hate that personally, because I hope it doesn't do the heartbeat thing, because that was annoying in the Saw 2 video game for what I remember, where every time you lose some life, lose some blood, your heart rate monitor would beep, 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 go over and over. See, it's annoying just me saying that aloud. But looks like you got a candlestick. And, of course, there is the new edition of the pig mask. This time it's a leather mask, kind of looks like a bear in a way, but I think it's a pig, or it's supposed to be like the pig ears and stuff like that. And of course, it's got the black cloth. This is not the judge. This is the accomplice. And one of the things it said in the promotional tactics is the judge can hire accomplices to do his dirty work. So this could be the attempt of the judge hiring somebody. This could be like the accomplice that was used in the Saw 1 and 2 video games. We never did figure out who they were, but the same thing right here. It just could be someone that the judge, asked to do their dirty work for them in order to survive their game. But they use a pig mask, or like a little leather pig mask, or like a bear mask, or whatever they decide what it looks like to be. But that's what they're using right here. And of course, you see like a weight machine in the background. You see the woman in the background with a wire area and stuff like that. So you could be trying to fend off the pig mask right here as you're losing health with a candlestick. So, or a table leg, probably. Maybe it's a table leg instead of a candlestick. But now I'm going to get into my theory on how this game is going to play out story-wise. Again, this is not a thing official, but this is just all my theory. If I were to see this game, how it plays out story-wise and narrative-wise, this is how I think it's going to go. The game will open with John Kramer telling you, the gamer, the story about how the judge came to be, as John Kramer himself is preparing for his trap. He opens the book from the judge that we see that John was picking up in the trailer. So how it's going to pick up, I imagine what's going to happen is John's going to pick up the tape recorder and hit record on the button. And then as he hits record, he's opening the book. And as the book opens, John's going to begin his narration. And that's how we're going to go into the flashback of the judge's story. So I imagine that's how this game is going to start. It's going to start with like a normal Saw warehouse where Jigsaw walks up. You see a little shadow of Jigsaw in the background. He picks up the book of tape recorder, pushes record, and then turns the page open, and then we get to the Jigsaw monologue telling you the story about the judge. And we get flashbacks, and we hear the judge's story from the World War I battle. We see the judge survive the trench battle, but he's holding his brother, and he lets out a scream, and you see his jaws ripped open. And then the judge decides at that moment, after surviving the war, he's going to go after all the people that had done him wrong. And that's how we get our 3 accused victims being forced to play a deadly game. The story will have different outcomes, of course, I imagine, depending on who you play as. If you play as a judge and the judge wins the story, then I say then at the very end of the game, Jigsaw will talk about how his work inspired him and started him on his own path and his own version of rehabilitation based on the judge's works, but John, of course, uses his own twist and his own beliefs and his own philosophies, different from the judge's. And if you play as the accused, and the accused win and survives their story, and let's say the accused finds a way to escape and kill the judge, then I have the game end with John Kramer telling that future descendant of the accused victim their story about how their grandmother or grandfather survived the judge's game but didn't follow the rules and follow the righteous paths. Hence why John says the phrase, "The spiral bleeds ever so deeper." John then will test the victim in one of the judge's old traps, the head crusher trap. So at the very end of the game, you'll see John, how he uses the judge methods to get revenge on the descendant of one of the victims that you see from the accused in the game. So I think that'd be a cool ending, where it opens with Jigsaw and it ends with Jigsaw. And that's my theory of how I think the game will go. Let me know in the comments if you agree that'd be a cool idea to begin it in the game. Like, it opens with John Kramer and ends with John Kramer. And that way Tobin's in the game. It's a nice little feature and callback and inspires you to go on. Now, if you all want my honest opinion on this idea of John Kramer himself calling someone a prophet and how their book, Bound in Blood, inspired those who are worthy, I'm not the biggest fan of. To me, what made John Kramer so interesting and special was that he was his own man with his own beliefs. Of course, people have been making death traps and torture devices ever since the dawn of time. Now, did John get ideas and borrow from people back in time before him for his death traps? Sure. But to see someone from 100 years ago, before John's time, make traps, have their own doll, and their pig mask, and the spiral symbol, and use their versions of rehabilitation to test people, and yeah, to me that makes John Kramer sound more like a copycat of this Judge character, and make his traps his own thing, and to me, that just takes away from the Jigsaw character and not enhance it. But I will also admit that there was a time period that was unaccounted for in the Saw franchise, from John's car accident from Saw 2, where he survived his suicide attempt, to testing Cecil in Saw 4. So maybe while John was recovering, he found that book from the Judge and was like, this is the way. This is how I'm going to test people. This is going to give my life purpose. Could it work? Sure. Would it be best for John Kramer's character? No. But then again, it would answer questions such as, how was John Kramer able to get all these ideas so quickly to test people within a span of 2 to 4 years in a time window while he was battling brain cancer? Plus, not to mention, he had to set up all the events from Saws 1, 2, and 3 to keep going as well. So, could it make sense? Maybe, but as I said, for his character, we'll have to wait and see. But keep in mind, people, Tobin Bell did sign off on doing this game, people. And I'm pretty sure that if he knew that the writers were doing his character dirty, of the John Kramer character, and doing him wrong, I'm pretty sure he would speak up and say something. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to turn out okay, people. But I'll reserve judgment until we see the story comes out itself. Or this could be a Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker situation from Episode 8, Last Jedi. Time will tell, people. Time will tell. So that's my thoughts, people, and what do you think? Leave me your comments below, and I'm excited, because at the end of the day, people, we're still getting a Saw game, and that's still cool. Plus, Tobin's in it, and it's got a lot of people interested in a new chapter from the Book of Saw, and who knows? Maybe my Saw fan film series, the Jigsaw blogs, can even draw up some inspiration from this storyline, as we have from the first 2 Saw video games. So if you're a big gamer, I say give this one a shot. Sign up for it today, and as always, like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and follow us on our Patreon page at patreon.com/thejigsawblogs. Stay tuned for more updates. I'm Jacob Walton, and let the games continue.